So in this video, we're going to talk about the barriers that go into place when it comes to trying to make changes to your body. Oftentimes, when people talk about training and nutrition topics pertaining to fitness, they focus on the surface level things. But on this channel, we're going to just dive into the more of the nuance behind you transforming yourself outside of what people are accustomed to, which is just the what exercise, how many sets, how many reps. Even though that stuff is important, there's a lot that goes into it. In this video, we're going to talk about some intangibles. So we're going to talk about why people have a hard time with their transformations, and how it's more of a mental game than it is a physical game. And many could also say that when it comes to life in general, that's necessarily the case. But in pertaining to this, people don't realize that before you can make change physically, it has to happen in your mind. It has to take place in the mental. So that happens through visualizations, planning, and also having the grit and the desire to fulfill whatever objectives that you have. Now, I say that to say that people oftentimes will attribute, well, I'm not doing this, I'm not motivated, I don't have it in me. People say these things. Now, when people say these things, they're not looking at the deeper issue. Okay. I believe that someone who's been involved in this line of work for many years, someone who works with lots of clients and have worked over the years. Guys, one thing that I found that allow people to be successful when it comes to getting results and when it comes to making those transformations is more of adopting the proper system. Now, what I mean by system, I'm simply referring to the actual layout of a specific program that is not challenging and not difficult for one to adhere to on a regular basis. It's just like with anything. If you want something to be attainable, you have to set up a system. And I think that when it comes to simplicity, when it comes to something being like the back of your hand as far as you consistently doing it, I think that when you adopt a system that works for you and your lifestyle, that's when you're going to see the most effects. And I find that when you can integrate yourself into a proper system and you can adhere to it, that's what builds that discipline. Discipline is just a series of actions that take place over a long period of time on a consistent basis. This is why I'm not so quick to say that, well, it's discipline. Well, clearly, there's discipline involved, but again, I like to look at the nuance part of things. Once you can find out what gets someone going, once you can find out how someone can actually be consistent with stuff, when you can really kind of break down those layers, that's when you can start to understand how to manipulate things, plan things. So I'll give an example. So if you're somebody who is a school teacher, let's say, you say you work long hours, you're constantly grading quizzes, homeworks, tests, and you take on a lot. The last thing you're thinking about is yourself, as far as your health and as far as your fitness is concerned, that you neglect it so much to where you dig yourself into a hole. So if this particular person tries to go to the gym and work with a trainer and all that stuff, not saying it's not possible, but this particular individual has to invest so much of their time elsewhere that by the time they get to the point where, or get to a space where they need to be focusing on themselves, they're so drained, they're so wiped out, and there's nothing left to give mentally, and hence why it never takes place. Or if it does take place, it's very short-lived. Or you can be somebody who, another profession like you run a business. Business owners are very, very, very busy, and I understand that because you do what you can to try to stretch the time in a day, but you can never do it. It seems like No matter how much early you get up to work on something, it's never enough time. But, I have a lot of experience working with individuals like this who constantly are servicing the needs of others, putting their employees before themselves, doing what an entrepreneur or somebody who runs their business is supposed to do, put others before themselves, hence why they've been able to become successful. But in the process of doing that, you start to neglect yourself, and also you building those habits to get yourself in a routine becomes difficult because you're not really looking at it as far as what I can or what I can do, or excuse me, you're not looking at it as a sense of this is fit into my life. I think people fail because they just try to do something, right? Well, I just got to get something in. I got to get some activity and I got to do some type of training, but they don't ever ask themselves, is that right for me? Is this going to fit into my life? And oftentimes when things don't work out, it's because they never do. This is why I think that, guys, when it comes to creating a system, it needs to be simple. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be something that you look forward to doing, you enjoy. It's not going to take up a lot of your time. It's not going to be complicated. It's very straightforward. There's no confusion. You can just turn your brain off. I create programs like that where I understand the needs of the majority of people. And again, if you're somebody who's extremely busy, which is most of us, we're extremely busy and we just want something that's going to work, number one. But most importantly, it's going to, I don't want to say be convenient, but it's going to, I can always access this no matter where I am, That's why when I make my programs, guys, which by the way, you can find on my website, which is lionstrongfitness.net/fusion. You have access to all my fusion training programs, guys. They're fantastic. They're dumbbell-based training where I implement a system where I believe in doing time sets versus doing repetitions in which you're counting reps. But anyways, I digress. I believe that when you can do something that takes minimal amounts of time, but with something that takes less time, in order to make up for the less time that you're doing, you need to be able to increase intensity. And people don't realize that the key to getting great results is intensity and time under tension. And I can talk about that in other videos, but really taking different principles, such as the principle of progressive overload, training to failure, muscle failure. You are focusing on doing a different of nuanced training principles that people don't ever talk about, nor do they utilize. And these are drop sets, supersets. Really making sure that you can integrate different types of training, right? And when I say that is you want to do things that's going to make the body stronger, build muscle, because that's important, but do it in a much more functional way. And this is why I believe in using free weights and doing things that the core is actively engaged at all times. So I just think, guys, if you can create something to where you can do it anywhere, anytime. There's no there's no objection, there's no confusion. Minimal equipment. When you can put less things that you have to use in a system, then it makes it easier to do. It also knowing that it doesn't take forever, knowing that even if you're home with your family, even if you're in between, calls, or you're in between work, you can always bust it out. Or even, I have people who've purchased programs from me, guys, and I get people emailing me and they love they're loving the gains, or they love how this stuff really works for them. And they tell me that, yeah, when I do my workout, I'll simply be in a conference call, but with your stuff, I can open it up and I can just click on the link. It'll take me to my secondary channel, not this one. My other channel is called Lionstrong Exercise Vault, and it has access to all the training, and I can just follow it, and I'm getting the results I want. And guys, and that's how you make the impact, and that's how you solve problems. but you're keeping in mind that I need to put myself in the shoes of the average person. You know, of course, there are people out there who can spend all the time in the world training, and that's great, but that's not most people, you know. So on this channel, we're about solutions, and I have the solution. So guys, you know, in this video, again, we're just talking about the mental block that people have. A lot of times it's not motivation, it's not discipline. It's simply because they haven't developed the right system that works for them. And because they've not been able to develop that right system, they've kind of lose that confidence moving forward because they think nothing works. But guys, look no further. If you guys go to my website, once again, lionstrongfusion.net. Also in the description, you'll be able to access it. Again, my programs are amazing, and it's something that you guys will all love, especially for those who are extremely busy but need something that's gonna be action-packed and really, you know, get the job done. So anyway, guys, that's the video for today. I'm gonna be coming out with the next video. If you have any questions, be sure to follow me on my social media. Everything is at Lionstrong Fitness Global. That's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, obviously. You guys can send me an email if you have any questions. My email is lionstrongceo@gmail.com. And guys, I'll be signing out. See you guys in the next video. Thank you.